Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's tourism lesson. My name is Evans Maponi. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Center. I'm going to give you the WhatsApp number. In case you have any question, use this number to WhatsApp your queries. The number is 079 578 2908. Let me repeat the number. It's 079 578 2908. Grade 12 learners, in today's lesson, we are going to look into the topic map work and tour cleaning. And the subtopics would be health and safety. As you might be aware, we've indicated two topics here. First, the health. That's what we are going to look into first. And secondly, in the second half of this lesson, we'll look into issues of safety. Now, as we move further to look into the topic of health, it is assessed in section B, that is your question 2, and also assessed in section A, short questions in the final examination paper. You'll also come across questions based on this topic in your control test, skills assessment task, in the PET, in the preliminary examination, and the end of year final examination. Here are your lesson objectives. That is what you need to know as a grade 12 learner when you study or when you prepare for assessment based on the topic of health. Here are your concepts that you need to internalize. First, you need to know the World Health Organization with the acronym WHO. You need to know what a health certificate is. You also need to know what travel clinics are, compulsory and recommended vaccinations. Other concepts would include precautions to take when traveling to high-risk destination, that is areas affected by diseases such as malaria, bilharzia, as well as cholera. You also need to know the vaccinations that are required for entering or living areas of high risk, such as yellow fever and hepatitis. You need to know more about the disease TB and the pandemic HIV/AIDS and the risk involved for inbound tourists. You also need to establish the recommended health precautions for tourists visiting health risk areas. And those recommendations will include using bottled water, sunblock, as well as preventative medicines. Here are your key concepts, grade 12 learners. As you approach this topic, you need to familiarize yourself with the World Health Organization. You need to know what health certificates are. You need to know travel clinics, infectious diseases, infections, precautions, and as we move further, you need to know what vaccinations to take, compulsory vaccination as well as recommended vaccination. You need to understand what it means by immunization. You need to understand what a pandemic and an epidemic are, as well as inoculations. These are the concepts that you need to know and understand as you peruse through your books in pursuit of knowing the impact that health has on tourism. Now, as we further look into the topic of health in isolation from safety, health poses a very serious issue when traveling. It is an issue not to be ignored because travelers or tourists are exposed to many diseases, especially infectious diseases. So they can catch diseases as quicker than when they are in their own places of residence. So this is because they will be exposed to unusual or different climate, or you can say climatic conditions. They also come into contact with insects and animals when they travel. For example, you know of the coronavirus. The entire world currently suffered a blow from this endemic. All this influence the way we travel. So the conditions that we expose ourselves into as tourists will influence our travel behavior. And it affects all the sectors in the tourism industry. You know all the sectors. You learned about them in grade 10, the travel sector, the accommodation sector. Those are business entities that provides goods and services for tourism. So all those are affected by the health conditions of the tourists. To protect tourist health and reduce the risk of infection, they should obtain advice before they travel. So you just don't travel to certain areas. You must do a research. You must find out about the threats and the risks that are involved when visiting certain destinations. As we move further with our topic health, the tourist can get advice in different ways. From example, the World Health Organization that we have attributed earlier. You can visit their website or social media platforms from travel clinics, travel agents before you travel. So these are facilities available for us to obtain information about the areas we are intending to travel to. The World Health Organization is a specialized world agency of the United Nations. So it's a branch of the United Nations organization specifically concerned on addressing issues of health or advising on matters of health in different destinations of the world. The World Health Organization is concerned, it is responsible for public health. They provide leadership in health-related matters worldwide, across the globe. So they lead health research, set norms and standards regarding health matters. So they provide regulations, they provide rules on how we should conduct ourselves, on how we should keep ourselves safe from various diseases that we can contract as we travel. The World Health Organization, which is WHO, also supports the affected countries and advise countries on how to prevent diseases. So where there is an outbreak, the World Health Organization will interfere or will intervene to make sure that the situation or the status of health is brought to normal. Those are some of the roles of the World Health Organization. Another concept you are required to learn with understanding is the issue of health certificate. What is it? A health certificate is an official document that is issued and signed by a doctor at a travel clinic or a health authority. Your health authority would be a government department in charge of the health facility in a particular country, and can also be called a vaccination certificate. This is another name for a health certificate. A health certificate is also a document that indicates that treatment for a certain disease has been received by a tourist or has been administered on a tourist. It is a requirement that when you travel to certain countries, a health certificate must be produced. So you don't just go to travel around the whole world without meeting some of the requirements. And a health requirement is one of other requirements. So you may be needed to produce a health certificate as one of the requirements. It can be a requirement when you apply for a visa or travel insurance. So we've looked into our travel documentations, and we have listed all the requirements, such as you need an ID book, you need sufficient funds to apply. Also, a health certificate is one of the requirements. What is also required of a tourist traveling a particular destination, treatment is generally required before, during, and after a tourist travel to affected countries. This best explains what a health certificate is. As we move on, in our definition of health certificate, we made mention of travel clinics. What are these travel clinics, and how do they differ with the normal community clinics that we go to receive medication and treatment? So these are registered clinics or health facilities worldwide or across the world that specializes in international travel health care, and they provide up-to-date travel health information and care. They give advice on high-risk areas, as well as disease outbreaks, and provide health certificates. So these are the responsibilities of travel clinics. They give information with regard to infected areas or areas of high risk. Where there is an outbreak, they will provide such information. And most importantly, they issue health certificate. So this health certificate will indicate that this person is fit to travel and is not infected or affected by certain disease that spreads easily in the countries or in the destinations they are looking forward to visit. Travel clinics also specialize in infections and illness that can be derived from a particular travel. So this is their area of specialty, and this distinguishes it from the ordinary clinic. So travel clinic specifically looks into diseases that can be contracted when traveling around the world. Whereas the ordinary community-based clinics are general and they treat every kind of disease. So this one has a specific focus, mainly to advise travelers on outbreaks, to administer vaccination for travelers, as well as provision of health certificates. So this is mainly the focus of travel clinics. As we move on, another concept that you are required to learn and understand is that of vaccinations. A vaccination simply suggests the treatment for preventing a disease and not an injection. So a vaccination is different from an injection because a vaccination is aimed at preventing the disease rather than curing the disease. Whereas an injection, you will receive it when you are sick, and they'll put you on an injection to stabilize the disease. Whereas vaccination helps in the prevention of a disease. So a vaccination is taken before one contracts a disease. Now, there are categories of vaccination, two types mainly. The first one is compulsory vaccination, and the other vaccination type will look as we move further. It's a recommended vaccination. Now, let's examine what entails the compulsory vaccination. Compulsory vaccination are mandatory. You are forced, you are obliged to take this kind of vaccination. You have no choice when you travel at that destination. You have to take this kind of vaccination, whether you like it or not. Hence, they are saying it is mandatory. They are saying it is compulsory. You are compelled to take this vaccination. Otherwise, you will not travel. And this, it's prescribed by the world body, which is the World Health Organization, or in short, the WHO. So this is the body that leads the health facility across countries of the world. And entry into a country may be refused if the tourist can't provide a health certificate. So you will not be allowed in other countries or to enter countries unless you produce a health certificate. Yellow fever is the only disease that requires a compulsory vaccination if you visit high-risk countries. We'll further explore this kind of disease and which areas are mostly affected or are considered high-risk areas for yellow fever. Another type of vaccination, remember we have alluded to the compulsory vaccination, and the second type of vaccination, it's recommended vaccination. And this, it's recommended, it's not compulsory to take, but it's highly advised. You are advised to take such vaccination when you visit certain destinations as precautions to safeguard the health of tourists and citizens in high-risk areas. So it is recommended, not compulsory. You're just advised that please take this kind of vaccination so that you may not, or you limit the chances of being infected or infecting other people when you visit other people. The recommended vaccinations can be taken against diseases such as typhoid and hepatitis A. So these are mainly the diseases that it is recommended that you take vaccines. The diseases, we've been speaking of diseases in general. Now we are going to look into a couple of diseases that you should take precaution of, that you need to safeguard yourself against contracting these kind of diseases, especially when you travel to high-risk areas. Now, the first type of disease that we are going to look into is malaria. Malaria refers to a disease that is caused when people get bitten by Anopheles mosquito. This is a type of a mosquito that if you are bitten by this kind of mosquito, you are likely to get malaria. The following are the symptoms associated with malaria. The first one is that you will experience a flu-like symptom. Flu-like symptom. So please underline this flu-like symptom. It will help you identify with the kind of disease under discussion. So malaria, you will recognize it by developing a flu-like symptom. Other symptoms would be headache, tiredness, fever, muscular pains, vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, as well as fatigue. All these are other symptoms related to our disease under discussion, which is malaria. The symptoms can occur up to 6 months after leaving a malaria area. So you can visit a country. Let me give an example. You can go on holiday in Mozambique. It's one of the high-risk areas for this kind of disease. You can enjoy a 5-day holiday breakout. and the symptoms may not be realized during your visit. It can take up to 6 months to realize all these symptoms that we have mentioned. So do not take it for granted. So, and this is a picture portraying the kind of mosquito that brings about malaria. Let's look at the regions where or mostly affected by malaria, or regions that are considered high risk of malaria. And you will find that in our continent, Africa, it is also prevalent in Asia. It is also experienced in Central and South America. It is also typical in South Africa, near the northern parts of the Kruger National Park. Again, in South Africa, it is common in KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Mpumalanga and Limpopo provinces. It can also be seasonal. Precautions that you need to take when visiting a malaria-infected area. One thing that you must understand is that there is no vaccination for malaria. Excuse me. But a trial started in some countries for citizens. So before you leave your own country to a malaria-infected area or to an area considered to be a high-risk malaria area, you must take a preventative medicine, as there is no vaccine. But please mind that trials started in some countries for citizens. When you are in that area, avoid getting bitten. Use insect repellents. Apply mosquito nets. Stay indoors at night, especially. Close windows and doors at night. That will minimize the effects of contracting malaria. You can always use spray aerosol insecticides in the rooms. You can also burn mosquito coils and mats. Wear long pants or sleeved tops. That will help you to prevent contracting malaria. Another disease, it's bilharzia. Bilharzia is the disease which you can contract from a larva that develops from a type of freshwater snail that penetrates the skin when people swim or wade in a water that is slow moving. So avoid waters that are slow moving because chances of getting bilharzia are high. The larva develops into a worm that lives in a person's bladder, liver, or bowel. It is common in the following region, where you see a slow flowing fresh water. Chances of contracting these diseases are high. And the regions of Limpopo, Mpumalanga province, the northern and eastern parts of Gauteng province are prone to this kind of disease. It is also common in the lower altitude areas of KwaZulu-Natal province, the coastal regions from KwaZulu-Natal province extending to the eastern province. So this is where the bilharzia is common and prevails and affects a high number of people. Here are the symptoms of bilharzia. You will experience tiredness. You'll feel ill, that is ill health, blood in your urine, abdominal pains, fever, as well as diarrhea. Here are the precautions to take when visiting a bilharzia infected area. There is no vaccination. Avoid contaminated water, that is slow moving fresh water. This includes swimming, splashing, washing clothes, or drinking this kind of water. It usually breaks out after floods, poor water supplies, and poor or inadequate sanitation. So these are situations where you are likely to contract these diseases. So a precaution indicates to you that you must avoid such places, or you should avoid participating in activities that takes place in the water that is contaminated or slow moving. Another disease that is prescribed for us to discuss is cholera. Cholera can be contracted, or it is a bacterial infection that spreads through contaminated food and water. So unlike bilharzia, where we indicated that it is water, and in particular slow-moving fresh water, cholera has two places or two attributes that can spread this kind of disease. That would be contaminated food or water. Right. I'm going to give an example of contaminated food by specifically looking at grains. In regions where cholera is widespread, grains such as rice, millet, that are contaminated after cooking and kept at room temperature for several hours can grow a cholera bacteria. The symptoms of cholera: you will experience prolonged diarrhea and followed by severe vomiting. These are the symptoms that are associated with cholera. Precautions to take when visiting a cholera-infected area. Like the other diseases that we have discussed, there is no vaccination. So it is important for you to look after yourself and take the following precautions. These are the hints that will help you prevent contracting cholera disease. Avoid contaminated water, that is slow, fresh moving water. So as you can see, the precautions are similar to that of malaria. This includes swimming, splashing, washing clothes, or drinking. So as you can see here, there is a thin line that separates contracting this kind of these two types of diseases in malaria and cholera. Another disease that is important for our study is that of yellow fever. Yellow fever refers to a virus that is spread by the bite of a type of mosquito. It is difficult and to identify, and the doctor needs to do blood tests. So for them to discover this kind of disease in your body or this kind of infection in your body, they have to conduct blood tests. They have to take blood samples from your body and send it to the laboratory for testing. The regions that are commonly affected by yellow fever are the regions in the North and South America and in Central Africa. South Africa requires all travelers from these risk countries or those transiting through them to provide proof that they have vaccination or they have had vaccination. So the proof is your health certificate that we have alluded to in the beginning of this lesson. The health certificate or the vaccination certificate will be required when you visit South Africa, especially when you arise from South America, as well as some parts of Africa and predominantly Central Africa. So the yellow here indicates countries or areas that are a subject to yellow fever. Symptoms of yellow fever, like the two other diseases that we have alluded to, there is that flu-like symptom, there is fever, tiredness, joint pain, yellowing of skin, and whites of the eyes. So these are the parts in the body that are affected by this kind of disease. So this yellow fever, like malaria, is brought about by mosquito bites, but different categories or different forms of mosquitoes are involved in bringing about these two types of diseases. Precautions to take when visiting a yellow fever infected area. You are advised to take a vaccination, which is, of course, compulsory, and it can be treated in hospital. Precaution is like for malaria because it is also spread by mosquitoes, as I've mentioned. A valid health certificate is required. Not just a certificate, but a valid one. I just want to explain the concept of valid. So valid suggests here the most recent health certificate. You cannot provide a certificate that was taken 5 years ago and consider that kind of a certificate as valid. So you have underwent some or a lot of things happen in those 5 years. So the most recent certificate is needed. Mostly not older than 3 months. I'm just trying to emphasize on the concept of valid. So it has to be something that has been taken recently. It is valid for a period of 10 years. So if you have taken this kind of vaccine, you can stay another 10 years without contracting this malaria. So valid here, it's alluded by the period of 10 years that in the next 10 years, you will not contract yellow fever when you have taken this vaccine. So that certificate would be valid. Another disease is a set of hepatitis A and B. So there are two types, that is the hepatitis A and B, and we are going to differentiate the two in our explanation. these viruses are related, or diseases are related to the liver. This is a viral infection transmitted through contaminated food and water. Remember, cholera also is derived from this contaminated food and water. And you have another disease closely related to that as hepatitis, and it affects the liver in human bodies. And the second type is hepatitis B. This viral infection is contracted through body fluids. You would refer to fluids such as blood, saliva, and mucus, other bodily fluids. That's where you can get or contract hepatitis B. A can be contracted from food and water, whereas B from bodily fluids. The common regions, it is prominent in most areas in Africa and Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, here we've provided you with a map, starting with India. Countries such as Indonesia are mostly affected by this kind of disease, hepatitis A and B. So these are the regions where you can find or associated with this kind of disease. The symptoms of hepatitis A and B are similar. You can experience fever, stomach pains, tiredness, joint pains, yellowing of the skin, and white of the eyes. And we have alluded to this before. And as you can see from the picture, this is the virus, and it mostly affects the liver in human bodies. Precaution to take when visiting an infected hepatitis A and B area. For hepatitis A, treatment, a series of 2 injections, 6 months apart, provide immunity for 10 years. So you have to take 2 injections, one in the first 6 months, and after 6 months, you can go for the second injection, and you'll be safe from this kind of disease for a period of 10 years. Hepatitis B, 3 doses, unlike the first one where you take 2, with B, you need to take 3 doses, 2 months apart, and the third dose is taken 6 months later. So you take one and stay for 2 months and have another one, and after 6 months, you take the last vaccine. As we move further with the kind of diseases that we need to study or have information about in this topic of health, is that of TB and HIV/AIDS risk for inbound tourists. So these are other ailments that shape our health topic. So TB and HIV/AIDS risk for inbound areas are listed as follows. Inbound tourists are tourists who enter the country. We are trying to explain the concept here. Inbound, so they are coming into the country, so they are referred to as inbound tourists. And the risks that are involved with their visit to themselves and to the host community are that they are at risk of contracting the disease because they have close contact with other people, and the infection is related to their activities in the country they visit. Tourists sometimes participate in more risky behavior than they would at home. So they are in control of their lives as they visit other countries. So they lose control Nobody is going to tell them what to do or not because they are away from home. So they indulge in some risky activities and behavior. So they are very much prone to contracting these two types of disease. If they have enough information regarding these diseases before they travel, they can adjust their behavior accordingly. So if they know about these diseases, if they were educated about these diseases, then they can control, they can be in charge of their lives at different destinations that they have visited. TB and HIV/AIDS, risk for inbound tourists, starting with TB. TB stands for tuberculosis. It is a global problem, especially in underdeveloped countries, declared by the World Health Organization, as indicated here. It is infectious, bacterial disease of the lung. So it can spread from one person to another. So if you come into contact with a person that is infected of these diseases, you are likely to get this kind of disease. The danger areas spread by breathing in airborne bacteria. When in the company of people with active TB, chances are low to get it, but be aware of overcrowded spaces and poor ventilated areas. So you must be aware of such areas where there is no proper flow of air. The symptoms, the body can control the bacteria or be infected. How to avoid it or precautions you can take. It is preventable in South Africa. It is cured, but they should be treated for at least 6 months. So the treatment of this disease takes as long as 6 months. TB and HIV/AIDS risk for inbound tourists. As we move forward, we'll now look into AIDS, HIV and AIDS. What is it? You can acquire this virus through contact with contaminated blood, body fluids, or you can get it from syringes if they are not properly administered, or needles. Needles here, we are referring to injections that you receive if there is poor administration in disposing this kind of material, then you are likely to get HIV/AIDS. It is prominent in the SADC countries, especially in Botswana, Swaziland, and South Africa, which are considered to be high risk. These are just but examples in the African continent, and in particular our SADC region. It can start with a flu-like symptom, but as it progresses, more symptoms are likely to develop. And how to avoid it, or precautions that we need to take to stay away from this kind of diseases, because there is no vaccination, only preventative measures like safe sex practices and sterile needle. So you must disinfect the needle if you use it more than once or use it on different people. Please sterilize or remove all the poisonous substance from the needles that you are going to use, the injections that you are going to use. But to play safe, it is to administer one injection per person. Health precautions for tourists visiting health risk areas. So these are the general precautions for all the kinds of diseases that we have mentioned before. Medical arrangement a tourist takes before they depart, which will help them to stay healthy whilst traveling. So this is just but a definition of what a healthy precaution is. Now, number one, they are advised to use bottled water. Safety of water is very important during travel. So many travelers get sick because of contaminated water. So it is safe to use or to drink bottled water than any other water. That slow flowing water is not good at all. Drink bottled water. That is one of the precautions. Bottled water should be sealed at all times. Use bottled water to brush your teeth. Keep open wounds covered. Avoid ice cubes from tap water. Rinse fruits and veggies with bottled water or peel them. Make coffee or tea with bottled water. This is one of the safety precautions that you might take. Preventative medicine, stay healthy during the trip, visit the doctor or travel clinic before the trip, take vaccination for required destinations, take a personal travel first aid kit, take out travel insurance to cover in case you contract one of the diseases that we've mentioned before. Take legally prescribed medicine on a trip or letter from the doctor. Read recent travel advice for your destination of choice. These are preventative medicine measures that you can take. Sunblock, excessive exposure to the sun and the effects of UV radiation can cause sunburn. Precautions that you must take are as follows. Sunblock is important. It provides resistance for the skin. Use SPF plus 15 sunblock. High SPF number of on sunblock is even safer. So if you use 15 or more SPF sunblock, then you are safe from other illness. Don't be in the sun between 10 and 16 hours because it is very hot during those times. Apply and reapply the sunblock regularly. Use waterproof sunblock because water and snow reflect the sun rays. So the sun rays can easily penetrate through the sunblock if it's not waterproof. Wear clothes that cover your arms and your legs. That will help you prevent diseases such as malaria or yellow fever. Mosquitoes cannot bite you through easily into your skin because it has to pass the long sleeve clothes that you are wearing. Wear UV protective sunglasses and wide brimmed sun. So these are some of the precautions that you need to take to prevent from sun or excessive sun block. Now, we have discussed a lot about the health issues, and now let us test our knowledge through this activity. The activity says choose the correct words from those given in brackets. Write only the words next to the number that is 1 to 4. Example, 6 health. The first one, an inoculation or binocular is a medical injection or vaccination. We'll look into we'll discuss answers later. Number 2, vaccination or vacations are required for entering living areas where there is high risk of contracting certain diseases. Question 3, a health or a birth certificate is a document or a card signed by a healthcare provider, such as a doctor, that proves that health of the other bearer, the health of the bearer of the certificate. Number 4, Compulsory or recommended vaccination are required for entering or leaving areas where there is a high risk of contracting certain diseases. Explain 2 reasons why South African tourists will visit a travel clinic before traveling to Zimbabwe. Now, let's look into the answers. For number 1, an inoculation is a medical injection or a vaccination. Number 2, vaccination, not vacations, are required for entering living areas where there is a high risk of contracting certain diseases. Number 3, a health, not a birth certificate, is a document, a card signed by a healthcare provider, such as a doctor, that proves that health of the bearer of the certificate. Number 4, compulsory, as opposed to recommended vaccinations, are required for entering or leaving areas where there is a high risk of contracting certain diseases. As we move to number 5, which says explain 2 reasons why South African tourists would visit a travel clinic before traveling to Zimbabwe. Here are your answers. They provide up-to-date travel health information and care. They provide advice on high-risk areas and disease outbreaks and provide you with a health certificate. And lastly, they also specialize in infections and illnesses from travel. This puts us to an end on the topic of health, and I want us to take a 2-minute break. When we bounce back, we'll look into issues of safety. Can we take quickly a 2-minute break, and then we'll proceed with our lesson. Remember, it's health and safety. We have managed to go through the health aspect, and when we come back, we'll look into the safety aspect. Welcome back, grade 12s. Remember to WhatsApp your questions to this number, 079 578 2908. 079 578 2908. Grade 12 learners, I have to remind you that the topic is split into 2. We have health aspect, where we looked into a number of diseases and how you can contract such diseases, whether that disease has a vaccine or not, whether that disease requires a certificate from you before visiting a country or not. We also looked at the precautions and areas that you can contract the diseases. So examples of diseases were given, such as malaria, cholera, and the symptoms that are associated with these diseases. And also, lastly, you were given a precaution that you need to take when you visit. We also have defined categorically what a health certificate or what a vaccination certificate is. Those are aspects, in short, that you need to internalize when you study the health aspect of this topic. We are going to move forward, grade 12 learners, and we are going to look into the aspect of safety. Our topic is health and safety. So we have elaborated much on the health aspect. Now let's look into the safety aspect. Where is this topic going to be assessed? The safety one. It is also in section B, and it is question 2, and it is also assessed in section A, that is your short questions in the final examination. You will also be assessed on this topic in a control test, skill assessment test, task, the PET, the preliminary examination, and the final examination. This is where this topic will be assessed. And if you count this assessment, it means that you are likely to come across questions based on safety in any of the assessment that are prescribed for you in the current academic year. What you need to know, here are the concepts that you need to know. Reasons why safety of tourists in South Africa is important. We are going to establish as to why we need to ensure that people who are visiting this country are safe. Also, we are going to look into the general safety precautions, the general safety measures that we need to take when tourists are in the car, when tourists are in the public area, as well as when that is the streets, when tourists are in their hotel rooms, as well as in the airport and in dark areas or in areas where there is no light. So this will mention or will examine all the precautions that tourists should take. We're going to look into the advices that we can give to ensure that our tourists are as far safe as possible. Reasons why the safety of tourists in South Africa is important. If tourists are not safe in a country, it leads to far-reaching consequences for tourism industry in the country. So it has the negative impacts to the tourism of the country if they feel not safe or not protected. So we will look into those effects. It also influences the tourism industry of other countries. So if South Africa is not safe, it means tourists will leave South Africa, will not consider South Africa as a safe destination, and they will opt for other countries where they feel or they will feel safe or protected. Criminal activities have negative impacts on tourism industry. You may not like to visit a country or a region where your life is at stake, where you can be killed, where you can be mugged, where you can be robbed. You wouldn't go to visit such area, no matter how good the activities in that country may be. So safety comes first. So criminal activities are not good at all for our tourism industry. As we move further afield, general safety precautions for tourists in the car. As I alluded to, we have mentioned specific areas that we should advise tourists to be as much safe as possible when they find themselves in those situations. Tourists are advised to never display valuables in the car. That means you should not expose things like cellular, things like earrings, things like chains, things that are of value for you. Laptops should always not be exposed, not be seen by passerby. Lock valuables in the boot, that is, hide all your valuables in the boot. Keep to well marked and well lit street. So use clearly defined routes where there is adequate lighting in the streets. You also have to ensure as a tourist that the cell phone is fully charged before you leave your hotel room or your place of stay. Do not use the cell phone while driving. This is a rule and it's discouraged in our country, not only for tourists, but for everyone driving. And we are advised to use a hands-free kit. Do not stop to eat, rest, or relieve yourself by the roadside. So stopping can pose danger for you, especially when you want to eat. Stop in safe places like restaurant, but not in the middle of the road and start eating or leave the course of nature or by the roadside. So that will ensure your safety when you get to clearly designated areas like restaurant and other public facilities. General safety precautions for tourists in the car as we move on. Drive within the speed limit of the road. So if it's 120, don't drive beyond 120 kilometers per hour. Stick to the speed limit because you are not aware of the condition of the road. Do not pick up hitchhikers or give lift to strangers. Avoid giving help to people on the roads by giving them lifts to different destinations. And in so doing, you will ensure that you are safe for the duration of your stay. Be on the lookout for people on bridges who may throw objects at people that pass underneath them. You should be cautious, especially when you approach places where there are bridges. If there are people on top, please be aware they might throw objects onto your car and making you unsafe. Do not stop if rocks or logs are placed across the road. So if there are any form of barriers on the road, please do not stop to remove them because that can be a trap for you. You can fall into the criminal trap so that they rob you or they can do something that is not fine. Do not stop. We have mentioned this one, we have discussed this one. Turn around and follow another. So if you come across a barrier or a blockage on the road, please just make a U-turn and try to find or establish another route. Those were the general precautions for safety when you are in the car or when you are driving. So now let's look at other set of safety precautions. That is when you are in a public area or in the streets. The first one says, do not wear visible jewelry. Do not expose your camera or bags over your shoulder. Keep cell phones and wallets tucked away, that is in your pockets, not in the back pockets of a jean, because they don't fit fully into that pocket. Try to avoid carrying large sum of cash. Stay away from places which are remote and with few people. So opt for crowded streets and not lonely street or remote areas. Be alert when using an ATM. Never accept help from strangers. Don't allow people to assist you when you transact on an ATM. Report stolen or lost bank card immediately. Keep PIN numbers secure. Those are some of the precautions. And when you are in the restaurant, ask the waiter to bring a portable card machine on the table. As we continue with precautions in public areas or streets, you are forbidden from accepting or carry packages for strangers. Respect the culture, the protocols of the local community. So you need to behave in a manner that would respect the culture of and the certain procedures and of how they do things in that local. So we do things differently. So you are expected to respect how other people do their thing. Don't laugh at them or don't laugh at them. Don't mock them because that can create a serious tension between you and members of the host community. Be aware also of any car that might be following you. If possible, ask for direction from the people with children, public shops, or petrol station. So don't ask for direction from any person except one of the situations that are mentioned here. Avoid contact with people that would like to sell items at cheap prices. The aim could be to help you. Do not accept lifts from strangers as well. Those are general precautionary measures that you need to take when you are in a public area or in the streets. General safety precautions for tourists in the hotel room. So upon arrival, tourists must make sure where to park before offloading their luggage. You don't just park anywhere. Please park at appropriate designated area for the visitors. You need to keep the luggage with you or within your sight at all times. So make sure that wherever you are, you can see your luggage. You can keep an eye on your whatever you have. Take responsibility of valuables by carrying them yourself. So don't depend on other people to carry your luggages. It is important to keep them to yourself. Lock valuables in the safe at the reception or in the safe from your hotel. As we move further with safety in the hotel room, keep rooms locked when inside. Ask anyone that knocks for identification. So ask whoever knocks who they are before you open for them. Use the do not disturb sign on the door when going out. This gives an impression or an indication that somebody is in the room. So it might scare people who want to do crime, or it might distract them and they will avoid the room. Have the room key or key card ready before reaching the room. So you must hold the key in your hand a step or steps further from the door. Ask for a room near the lifts so that you can quickly escape or get into your room. Women especially, do not mention the fact that you are traveling alone to strangers. Just lie to them and say you are in the company of your friends or you are in the company of your partner. The general safety precautions for tourists at the airport: always keep your bags where you can see them. It takes us back to the previous one. So keep an eye always to your luggages. You need to also put tags on all bags with your details, such that when they get lost, they could easily identify and contact you. Outside and on the ISIL page, that's where you need to put your details. Lock all bags, wrap bags as an extra precaution. Only allow the designated security officers to check your baggage. So in the airport at some point, you'll be required to provide your bags to the officers to search if you do not have prohibited or restricted goods into the country. So use only securities that are official, that are designated to perform the duty. General safety precautions for tourists at the airport as we continue: never leave any baggage with strangers. So take your baggage or your bags with you all the time. Don't agree to look after someone else's baggage. And also be alert always. If feeling uncomfortable around people, move away from them. Do not carry goods through customs for a stranger. Only use recognizable tourism transport or registered taxis from the airport to your destination. I want us to reflect on these two precautionary measures that do not look after someone's bag, because if you do, you don't know what is entailed in those bags. You don't know what these bags are carrying. So you might be implicated in criminal activities. So for you not to be implicated, for you not to take ownership of someone's drugs, someone's restricted goods, please take care of only your baggages and do not agree to look after someone's luggage. Yeah, I think that is the danger of looking after someone's baggage, because you take ownership of that, and those baggages might be carrying goods that are against the law. General safety precautions for tourists after dark, when it is dark or when it is at night. You always know, you must know your route before leaving the accommodation. So you need to establish the route that you will follow. Avoid dark alleys. Alleys here refers to friends. Do not befriend people that you don't know, especially late at night. Do not form new friends during the night. Do not walk alone or in small groups, especially when you are in deserted areas. Deserted areas here we refer to remote areas or lonely areas, lonely streets where there are not so many people. Please avoid walking alone or walking in such areas when you are only a few people. You also have to use well-known public transport. So most of the public transport are branded, have logos, as well as contact numbers. So that will help you identify that this is a well-known public transport. In the taxi industry, they bear stickers of that particular association. So always look into such small things to help you identify that this is a safe public transport. Ensure that your cell phone is charged all the time, such that when you get lost, you are able to contact, you are able to detect from your GPS the direction, the proper direction that you need to follow. Travel lightly and also take one bag if necessary. So take what you can carry with you so that it becomes easier for you. You don't bother people seeking them to help with your luggage. As we go on with this, grade 12 learners will look into this activity and see if we can try and answer some of the questions, typical questions in the assessments that we are into. Like I've indicated, this comes from question 2. As you can see, it has been extracted from one of the past question papers, and it was question number 2.7. The activity, it says criminal activities at OR Tambo International Airport have increased significantly, and tourists have or had been warned to be careful. So we have indicated the warnings that do not look after someone's baggage, keep an eye on your baggage. Those are some of the precautions that we have indicated, and you need to allow proper security officer to search your baggage. Those are some of the precautions that tourists are warned about, and yeah, so this with the increase in criminal activities at OR Tambo, you are asked to recommend 2 safety measures to Gareth. It is the name of the tourist and his mother once they have landed at OR Tambo International Airport in South Africa. And for 4 marks, this means that one recommendation for 2 marks and the other one also for 2 marks, and that totals to 4. This is the activity question that you need to attempt. Now, here are the answers for the question, which says recommend 2 safety measures to Gareth and his mother once they have landed at OR Tambo International Airport in South Africa. So to play free from criminal activities, they should only use designated taxis. They should only use recognizable transport or public transport. They should make sure that they are not followed by unknown people, persons. They should know that they should always make sure that they are not followed by strangers. These are your 2 marks for the first one and the second 2 for the second recommendation. So these are not the only recommendations that you can give, but as we proceed further, it says do not accept help with luggage from anyone. I think we spoke much about this. This is another fact or another recommendation that you can give. And another one is, it says make use of official help desk at the airport when lost. So when you are lost, do not ask for direction from strangers. Please go to information center or help desk at the airport to seek help or information. As we move further along, it says do not display money, expensive jewelry, as well as camera. So try to put these equipments in places that becomes difficult for criminals to see. And lastly, you need to be aware of pickpockets and protect bags and backpacks. So you need to be alert of people who search you using their own tricks, and you need to also protect your bags and your backpacks. So if you are carrying a small bag on your back, please make it a point that you are in check of what is happening behind you. So those are the answers for the question in the form of recommendations. And the next lesson, grade 12 learners, will be on the 13th of March at 14 hours to 15:30, and the topic for discussion will be tour plans and route plans. In so saying, this puts us to the end of the lesson on health and safety. So you are given a number of precautions. So just go through all those precautions that relates to different diseases, precautions that you must take for you to be safety when visiting the country. So next week, this is what we will discuss. And on that note, grade 12 learners, I wish you all the best. Some of you are just about to write the match control test, and this is one of the topics which you'll be assessed on. Please try to revise it. Pay attention to detail, especially with regard to the health. When you look into diseases, please make it a point that you know the causes for different diseases. That is where you can contract them, whether it requires a vaccination or not. Please try to check if you will be required a health certificate and the precautionary measures that we need to take. The same applies to different safety precautions when you are in different spots, in the destination of your choice, at the airport, in the streets, in dark areas, in the car, as well as in the hotel. That will should help you to maximize your performance on this aspect. And on that note, this is the end of the lesson. And thank you so much for paying attention and for having joined me on this platform to share with you my understanding of health and safety issues as prescribed in our curriculum. Thank you very much. All the best of luck. Thank you.